Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming at Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India, in association with International Simulation and Gaming Association, ISAGA. This Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming is established to promote simulation and gaming as pedagogy and undertake research in this upcoming multidisciplinary area of interest. I, Dr. Aditi Ved, on behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya Fraternity, would heartily like to welcome our speaker, Dr. Jegatheswaran Manoharan, Hot Catalyst Team Effectiveness Consultant, Business Simulation Designer, Board Member of NASAGA, Selangor, Malaysia, Rector and Dean Dr. Santosh Dhar, Coordinator, Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming, Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, invited guests, eminent panel members, participants, and dear students. Today's webinar under the Pratiti is on the topic Designing Rapid Facilitation Games and Activities, and the resource person is Mr. Jegatheswaran. May I now invite Dr. Santosh Dhar, Rector and Dean Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, for her welcome address.
The resource person of today's webinar, Mr. Jegatheswaran Manoharan, Consultant, Business Simulation Designer, Board Member of NASAGA, Selangor, Malaysia, other esteemed participants across the globe, a warm welcome to today's webinar on designing rapid facilitation games and activities. Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya had started Pratiti webinar series in 2020, and since then we have been organizing it regularly. In fact, last year, that is 2022, we had 13 webinar series in 12 months. The sessions have always been insightful and nice treat to all of us. We had the designers, consultants, and academicians as resource persons who have shared their work and enriched us what is latest in gaming and simulation. And it has also given us insight how it can be incorporated in pedagogy. Today, we have with us Mr. Jegatheswaran Manoharan, who will be interacting with us on the theme, Designing Rapid Facilitation Games and Activities. I'm sure that today we are going to know something more latest in the gaming and activities. With these words, I once again welcome our resource person and other guests who have made it possible to be with us in this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the warm welcome. So before starting, let me give the audience a brief introduction about him. He is a team leadership specialist, international speaker, and a game simulation developer. He is active advocate in the use of game-based learning for corporate training. He has developed several learning games and simulations for adult training. His highly interactive games have been used for team effectiveness, customer experience, cultural transformation, and leadership trainings. He runs a training organization in Malaysia that concentrates on game design to solve organizational issues. Jega is a former executive board member of North American Simulation and Gaming Association. He has been invited to share his ideas on the application of games and simulation at the same conference in the US, ISAGA conference in Thailand and India virtually, and at the inaugural of another conference in Malaysia. I welcome him for the webinar and request him to start the session.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Aditi, Dr. Santosh, Dr. Vinod, and all, and Dr. Jigyasu Dubey for the invitation, your email, and I know I owed you back and forth a bit. So let me just clarify a few things. In the poster of it, it says that I'm the board member, but it was corrected over here. Thank you very much. I'm the former board member, so I've already finished my term. Another thing is, Dr. Aditi, I like what you said, Dr. Jega, but I'm not yet. I'm hoping one day I will be there. So you can refer to me as Jega alone. So thank you very much for this invitation. It's been a wonderful pleasure speaking here once again for the second time. And I think also during the ISAGA virtual summit that was held, hosted by SVB as well. So it's been a pleasure. And so today I'm all red because it's the Chinese New Year season, and the Chinese New Year is a big thing in Malaysia. So I'm all red today for that purpose. So the topic what we will talk today is actually on designing rapid design of the simulations and all. So what I thought was wanted to address some of one of the most important thing here is that everyone wants to design something, but they just don't know where to start. Now, there are a lot of people here who are experienced game designers. And I think for you who are experienced game designers, what I'm going to be sharing here might be something that you already know. But what I'm trying to do is putting a structure to it. But what I'm more interested is that how do we take the knowledge or the know-how of game design and reach out to more people out there? And I'm referring to more people is people who are non-game designers. Can non-game designers who want to create something, can they really do something out of it? So that's where my interest is. And the topic and the talk today is all on that. I want to see how we could take this knowledge. And I'm going to show you some techniques and tools which are simple enough, but that simple tools and techniques can be teachable to maybe a school teacher or maybe a trainer who is into corporate learning, but the thing is got no idea about what game design is all about. Can they also use game design? Or is this going to be among only the learned group of people, those who are consultants like me, who can probably design for others and charge them a consulting fee for that? So I feel that there's some level of design that is really up there, that really requires time and effort, and therefore the experts have to do it. But a lot of the design can be at a much more lower level, at entry level, that anyone should be able to design if we can give them some structure to the design, right? So this is where I would like to take the conversation today. Let me just share my slide here. Can I just check, are you able to see my slide in full? Yeah, all right. Is it changing right now?
Yes.
ChatGPT? Yes. All right. Okay, great. All right. Now, I think a lot of us are familiar with this thing called ChatGPT. I can't get much response from here from the audience, but I assume that you're already familiar with ChatGPT. And this ChatGPT has really caused a bit of a stir in many levels here, even in schools. The question people are asking now, or the question that we all have is today, is that do we need a teacher anymore? Because everything seems to be answerable by ChatGPT, and do we really need a teacher, or what is the role of a teacher? So tried it around a bit. So here are some of the answers that I got from ChatGPT. I just asked them, what are the legal sections of a white-collar crime in the British common law? And it just gave me all this. So saves me all the time of looking into different law books, and also I at least have to narrow down to these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different acts that it can that I should look into when I talk about legal sections for white collar crime. And this thing took like almost in a matter of what, less than 10 seconds, I guess. So later I thought, well, let's dive in a little bit and ask about money laundering. And then my second question was, how do you prove money laundering? And this is what was generated in about less than 10 seconds as well. Okay, how do you prove money laundering? And to prove money laundering, prosecutors must establish 3 elements. Now, this is actually amazing, because the thing is, a lot of the stuff that probably would take us maybe about 45 minutes or 30 minutes of scouring the internet and trying to look for stuff. And sometimes some websites will have 8 items, some websites will have 3 items, 2 items, and 7 items and all that. And this thing sort of like gets everything in a very short time. So I thought, let's be a little bit naughty and ask this ChatGPT a further question over there. And I told ChatGPT to do this, write a story about Arul from Chennai, who met Rishi from Maharashtra in a train in Bangalore while going for an interview and a trade conference. They chatted, found many similarities, and later kept in touch via phone and all. And they visited one another. And one day, Arul was diagnosed with cancer. ChatGPT, please complete the story. And this is what it did for me. It rewrote the entire thing in proper language. Not only it rewrote the entire thing in proper language, it also came up with a possible ending and a moral behind the story of that. You know, the last paragraph being that they both realized that the journey that brought them together was in a blessing in disguise. They were thankful for the day they met each other and so on. Okay. Now, the thing is this. The question I have today is that how would this transform the way kids learn? I mean, first of all, are teachers even aware that these things are actually happening? And, you know, some of the essays that is being written by them could just be generated by an AI for them. So, sorry, there's a background sound somewhere there. Okay. So my question is this. How will this actually transform classrooms, and what will happen in the future of learning in classrooms and so on? So there was a lot of debate even here in Malaysia among academics and non-academics and all that. Should we restrict the use of tech for learning? But if you look at it this way, every new technology always had somebody saying something about it. I mean, if you go back about 100 years ago, when the radio was in its infancy, and radio broadcast was the main thing in the 40s and the 50s and all, people even said that the radio is taking families away. They are not going out. They are sitting in front of this huge box, you know, the olden days box, you know, it looks bigger than today's TV, and that's supposed to be a radio. And then when TV came, we also said that about the TV. And then later when the telephone came, people were having debates in school about are telephones really connecting or disconnecting us? And I remember when the time when VCR came about, some theaters started closing down in Malaysia. And the question again, will VCR put the theaters out of business? But honestly, all these things were very good debate topics for school, but they never went beyond that. Technology still came in, progress still happened. None of the conclusions they made in any debates ever changed the fact that progress is actually forward. Even when internet came about, there were a lot of opposition to it, and the people were for it as well. But likewise, I believe whatever that is happening today is going to move on. So the question here is that how do we embrace that and make learning a little different? And here's where my thoughts are when it comes to school, or even in classroom learning, even in corporate learning, that the learning must transform from download to discourse. You know what, this is actually a very well-known stuff. In fact, I don't even know why should I even put this slide up here for us to all to have a look at it. But the funny thing is that as much as we know about it, I'm still finding this happening in today's classroom, where in corporate learning, I'm bringing from a corporate learning perspective, is that download is still a very predominantly heavy stuff that happens in classroom rather than discourse. But if you look at it, discourse has been the way how we learn. If you go back to ancient days of whether it's ancient India or ancient China or any part of Asia, the ancient wisdom was all about discourse. We even have a term called satsang. You know, that is just a group of people coming together, getting a topic, sharing ideas and talking. And learning was very much an element of discourse. Over the period of time when we had colonial powers who came in, that discourse started changing and it became regimented to a system called download. And today, the funny thing is that the world who prescribed download is right now going back to discourse. So what we want is actually creating environment for discourse in classroom. And we have some answers for that. You know, we have already been exposed to so many things, role playing, simulation, game-based learning, or gamification, and so many other terminologies and all that. The thing is sometimes all these terminologies, I don't know, are we really helping people or frightening people? Because sometimes these terminologies come with definitions and all, which I understand from an academic standpoint, we need to have definitions. But are we over defining things to the point that it's creating a labyrinth of system that only experts can actually do stuff? What about a school teacher? What about somebody who is a social worker who wants to, I'm in touch with one of my friends who works in one of the Malaysian, it's an agency under the government that helps people who are in the verge of bankruptcy. And they provide them consultation on how to come out of bankruptcy. And one of the things that she said is that the biggest killer of this is actually credit cards. Used to be cars. Car loan used to be the big thing, and then it turned to be credit cards later. And what she wanted is, what if we can take this knowledge to the average people? And look at it, these people are government employees who want to roll out a program, but then they just have no idea on what they can do to actually make people learn easily. So what I thought was, let me just make the session a session where it's being recorded. If you are a school teacher who's watching this way after this broadcast, I hope whatever I'm sharing here would be useful to you, for you to design activities for classrooms or for your NGOs or whatsoever, right? So I'm going to just go into this question here. How do we design certain activities and games? And whenever it comes to designing games, there's only two things that really blocks us a lot of time. Number one is time. Design is a time-consuming task, and that is why sometimes people lose interest in designing games and simulation. But like any other programs, if you want to do something, you're going to have to put in the hours. So time is actually a factor there. But the other constraint of time is how long do you have in order to actually play the game in your classroom. So I think the first thing that we need to ask ourselves is that how much time do I have in order to run this particular game? So whenever you're talking about designing a game, instead of starting from what game or what should be the element, what should be the content, start from how much time do you have to play the game. Even when I'm working with clients, when they ask me about, can you design a game for culture transformation in an organization and all? Yes, but can you tell me how much time do I have? Oh, you have 2 hours. Okay, fine. Now I can know what to do from that allocation of 2 hours there. The second thing is the know-how. Now, here's where today I thought I would address the know-how bit of game design, and hoping that this know-how will at least give people some structure to how they can actually take their existing content and convert them into a worthwhile game for their classroom. Now, for this to happen, I like to go back to the philosophy of Dr. Tyagi. And I'm sure many of us here know who Dr. Tyagi is. He even spoke at this platform several months back. Tyagi, when he was in Malaysia, he introduced us to this concept called faster, cheaper, better. And Tyagi's philosophy has always been design of activities and simulation has to be fast, has to be cheap. How can we do it with minimal resources, and how can we do it better? So I'm going to borrow his faster, cheaper, better philosophy, and this has always been a philosophy that we have been using in order to design activities as well. So I'm going to show you a rapid design framework here. And we start with a concept here, all right? A concept of, when you talk about designing, there are only 3 things that you will need to look at. Number 1 is the frame. Second is the mechanics. And third are the rules of the game. Okay, now what are these things? Frame, mechanics, and rule here. Now, frame, if you look at it, these are the various games that we probably have been exposed to. I think almost every one of us know what this game is. I'm not, I think the bottom right-hand side corner in Malaysia, we call it Chongka. I think in different part of the world, they call it Makala. In Tamil, it's called Palanguli. And I believe in every culture, this game is even existing in Africa. And one other thing about the game is actually it's a game that you can learn it in about 2 minutes. It doesn't take long to learn the game. It's actually a very simple game. It's a very traditional game. And I'm not sure if any of you have played the middle game on the bottom thing where it involves the bottle caps. It'll be interesting to hear from Europe and Americas what kind of games do they play over there. Because this is one of the cheapest game that we used to have when we were in school kids. And we'll collect bottle caps. For those who are the newer generation, we used to have glass bottle with caps, okay? Because in Malaysia, everything is now plastic bottle. It's so difficult to find bottle caps unless they are from beer bottles. But being a predominantly Muslim country, it's very difficult, sensitive to use beer bottle caps for our classroom thing. But we used to take it to school back then. It was not an issue. And there are various other games here, Snake and Ladder, Monopoly, and what you see is that where every games have a different frame to it. They have a different frame to it, and a frame here refers to a general structure on how a game is actually being played. And if you notice this game here, they are all actually very, very simple structures here. And one thing you want to do is whenever you're coming to designing a game, start with simple structure. Now, here's the challenge I have with some people is that they want to start. I'm talking about people who really want to start designing games and they want to use in their classrooms and all. One of the biggest challenges is that they are getting overly ambitious about it. They want to create, I mean, you have not created a game, and what you want to do, start off, I'm going to create a 2-hour simulation, or I want the simulation to run for an entire day and all. Well, you can do that. I'm not saying it's impossible. It has been done. There are many products out there in the market, and I'm sure some of you here who are into games and simulation have done something like that. But we need to understand what are we doing. And if you have not had any experience in designing games, then this will be something that we can already start with. Try to start with something simple. So some rules over there is that use existing game structure that can be used as a start. Okay, right? Use existing game structure. Pick games which are simple. Now, there are some people who want to create a game and then they look at a game like Settlers of Catan. Now, if you see Settlers of Catan, for those who have got experience in playing Settlers of Catan, learning the rule takes about 45 minutes. And that is being guided by somebody who is already familiar with the game, or maybe 30 minutes, depending on how fast of a learner you are. And the first round of the game, you are just trying to figure out everything. There's no element of winning in the first round. If you win it, it's just by fluke shot. It takes a little bit of time to develop, and then the game goes on after that. And if you look at other car games out there, Euro games, especially like Electric Power Grid. Okay, Power Grid is quite simple to learn, but the entire game can go on for about 2 hours and all. So the question here is that you want to ask yourself, how familiar are people with those structure or the rules or the frame of the game here? So one other thing is that get yourself familiar with different frames of game. In this case, if you want to be a game designer, you need to be exploring multiple games. Try to work with simple game, complex, and get yourself familiar and use those simple games. Simple games that are easy with the very familiar rules. You can take the familiar rules. For example, if I take a game like Snake and Ladder, everyone have already played it. So it's easier for us to modify that for a classroom. Or you take a game like Jenga, for that matter. These are easy games that can actually be used in classroom, because the thing is, people already learn how to know how to do it. Okay, and the short time to learn here is back to Tyagi's philosophy. Tyagi has a philosophy. He says that if people take time to learn a game, when will they learn from the game? So you first have to learn the game before you can learn from the game. Now, I once was at a conference and I told them this. I mean, the speaker was giving a game scenario, but people were still trying to figure out what the game is all about. And then immediately the game stopped, and then he was doing a debrief of the game and said, oh, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? And I said, hey, dude, we have not even learned the game. How could you even debrief a person or tell them that they are making a mistake when they are just trying to figure out a game over there? So the most important thing is that the time frame for people to learn a game has to be short enough. The lesson can only come once they have already got familiar with the game. So the first thing is actually frame. The next thing is what you call as game mechanics. Now, what are game mechanics? Game mechanics are simple, various action and processes in the game. If you are talking about a game like Snake and Ladder, the mechanics are throwing a dice and moving that respective space. Additional mechanics is that you have a ladder which gives you points to go up, and then you have a snake that actually brings you down. So these are the various mechanics and all that. What we want to do is take those mechanics and ask yourself, is there another way to play this game? For example, if I were to challenge your thoughts right now, you all have played chess. Now, chess is two players playing left and right. The game mechanics is one player moves against the next player, and the thing is you got to take out the king over there. What if we had, think about it differently, what if we had a 4-corner chess or a 3-corner chess? What if we changed the board from a square-shaped board to a triangle-shaped board? What if we took out some of the game pieces? Maybe there was no bishop and a knight over there, and you had 2 castles for the matter. And what would you do differently in that game? So the thing is, what we want to do is ask yourself, what can be removed, what can be added, and what can be modified? Now, I'll show you an example. It will give you a better understanding about this. I'm just covering the basic understanding thing. The next thing is actually the rule of the game. The rule of the game is what can and cannot be done in the game. And rules directly relates to the lesson that you want to create in the game. Right? So what are the rules? And this basically means boundaries, limitation, and what allowance is allowed in the game. Now, let me just give you an example of where we can take all these 3 things. Okay, frame, mechanics, and rules, and how we have modified a game before. And I'll show you about a few examples here. Right? Take a game like Snake and Ladder. A Snake and Ladder has a frame. Okay, this is the frame of the game, which is actually a dice-based game. And he has snakes and he has ladder. Now let's think about it a little differently. What if we remove all the ladder and remove all the snake? And wherever the ladder starts, we will give it a different color, a blue color, which is a reward. And wherever the snake starts, it is a penalty. Therefore, we'll change it to a red color. This way. All right. So now the snake is out, the ladders are out. Now we have a situation between the blue and the red. Okay, but how do we play this game right now? Can we add a new mechanics to it? Think about from a perspective of a Monopoly. In a Monopoly game, when you roll the dice and you hit a chance card or a community chess card, you reach out and pick a card from the middle of the board. So can we introduce that mechanics here? So it's about marrying the mechanics from another game into this game. So we bring that mechanics over here, and let's just introduce blue card and red card. So red card is the penalty cards and blue cards are the reward card. Now let's give an example. You roll the dice and the dice moves you 4 spaces forward and you land in a blue space number 36. So the player takes out a card over here and it says that you made a habit of eating lunch with 2 different vegetables and eating meat only once every 2 days. Move forward 8 spaces, okay? And the player moves forward 8 spaces. All right, great. So what if an alternate thing happened over here? An alternate thing is that I roll the dice and it lands on a red space. You drank carbonated drink twice a week, move back 3 spaces. Oh, there's another red spot over there. Pick up another red card. Due to exam, tuition, and some family function, you did not exercise for 2 weeks. Move back 16 spaces. And move back over here. Now, this is actually a simple frame. The frame over here, the game design here was actually meant for kids to teach them about healthy eating. Now, you think about it. Whatever you have stated over here, don't take carbonated drinks, eat a lot of vegetable, reduce meat, exercise, drink a lot of water, all of this can be put into a textbook. I mean, it can be lectured. I mean, you can have funny graphics and all that. And whenever you go to schools, what do you see? You'll see posters after posters of telling people what to do. Now, question is how successful it is. Most of the time, it's just another piece of information. Yeah, sometimes kids do follow that because it's a habit at home. But at times, it's just another poster on the wall. But what we try to do is that, can we create a scenario whereby the experience of the game itself triggers them emotionally, especially when they get the red card, they get triggered emotionally to move backwards. And then they lose out in the game for that making the wrong. It's not really them making a wrong decision, but they pick the wrong card in the game. And that causes them to move backwards and all. And we actually use the similar frame for a customer service program. Okay, we conducted a customer service program. And here, these people are frontliners. Most of them are at a clerical level. And some are language proficiency because it's a predominantly in an industry that serves the Malay-speaking market. In Malaysia, we have the Malay language. English is a second language. And then we have the Mandarin and Tamil and all other languages here. But the predominant language is the Malay language. And there are some people in the frontliners who are very familiar with the Malay language and may not be very familiar with the with other languages. If we take a high-level content and go and give them, they are not going to be able to digest it. So what we did was we used a similar example. I just could not show you pictures of it. I'm trying to get my pictures, but I don't know. It's been some years since we did that. So what we did was we created scenarios inside the card with regards to customer service situations at their college. And this was actually a local college, okay? A local college, which is serving the diploma and certificate programs. So some of the penalty is you yelled at the customer and move back 14 spaces. You help the parent to show them to go to the right department, move forward 5 spaces and all. And what we did was we asked them what are the scenarios that actually happens in your organization. And they gave us a list of bad things that happen in the company, in that college, and the list of expectation that they had about what their frontliners should be doing. And we created the frontline, and we took all those situations and converted them into cards, and we played it along that time. And what happened was, once the game was over, we took those respective cards and asked them to line these cards up in the classroom. Okay, put it on your table, line it up over there, and tell us, what do you see as a pattern between the move back 18 spaces versus move back 3 spaces? What do you see about moving forward 8 spaces versus moving forward 2 spaces? And we let them dwell in the conversation. And they started asking themselves, okay, yeah, what is there? Is there a pattern over it? And then and we don't have to tell them that what the pattern is. This is what you call self-directed learning. They themselves told us the pattern. And the pattern was that some of the actions were too severe that caused them to move back by 16 spaces. Okay, what are the actions here? Yelling at a customer. All right, fine. Yelling at a customer took them 22 spaces back. And what are the things that move you forward? Promising a customer and getting back to them on time. Okay, that moved us 12 spaces forward and all. And later what we did was, we told them, we gave them index cards and we told them, can you write down situations in your own organization right now. I want you to create situations, positive situation and negative situation that you don't see in the card. And they started writing their own situation. Now, how much moving forward or moving backward would you put on that card? And they decided themselves. So you say, what's really happening is this. The learners are actually designing the training module. The learners are actually coming up with what works and what should not happen in their own organization. And in fact, they are actually pointing out stuff that we even never knew that actually happened in the organization. So this is one example of a frame on how we take that and use. I'll give you another example, another one that we used recently. Now, this one, almost everyone living on the planet knows about this. Monopoly. Can we change the frame, not using Monopoly, but can we take a Monopoly game and use that as a frame for culture competency in an organization? Now, some of you look at it, it's like, wow, that's, Monopoly is actually a business building game. It's about gaining property lots and trying to bankrupt the other person. I mean, that's what Monopoly is. Okay, you are the only last player over there and bankrupt all the other players in the game. What has that got to do with culture? Well, you see, it's not what the game is, it's what the frame and what your mechanics and rules are going to be like. So when you change the mechanics and rules, you can actually modify this. So here's what we did for a client, and this was done quite recently. We said, you know what? Every one of them are familiar with Monopoly. It's very easy. We don't really have to give them so much instruction. And plus, the challenge we had with this particular client is that not only we had to design the game, we need to teach this game to their internal trainers for them to run company-wide. And they have like about, 15,000-20,000 employees in the company. It's too expensive for them to hire someone outside to train 15,000-20,000 employees. So they have internal trainers that they recently recruited, and they wanted them to be able to roll out the program. So we designed a one-day program, and within the one-day program, there were 4 different games there. One of the game is this. Okay, I'm just showing you one of it here. And so during the design, we had to take into consideration not so much as who is going to play, but who is going to give the instruction. The people who are giving instruction are non-gamers. They are people who are not familiar with games. So in designing that, we had to take into consideration the empathy of design. I think I've spoken this before as well. The empathy of design is that you must know who are going to use that particular game. In this case, our bigger challenge was not who's going to play the game, but who's going to give the instruction for the game. So here's what we did with this. See, I mean, this to this, all right? So what we did was we modified all the sites, all the location into one of their competency. So they have a corporate value, and along the corporate value comes certain competencies over there. And we said that let's do a correlation between that, and we'll turn each location to a core value. And what they do is they will roll a dice, and they will land at those core values. So each core value actually had descriptors in it. And they had various descriptors, because for different levels, for a non-exec or clerical level, non-clerical or the middle level, and we had the management level, the lower management, middle management, and the upper management level. So we had descriptors for different positions, all that. What we did was we converted all the descriptors into questions or conversation. Now, what we wanted here was, the objective of this game was supposed to be, we wanted them to internalize the core values. Now, core value training is one of the most challenging training, because you can lecture to a group of people about your core values. And honestly, they might be polite enough to hear your core values, but nobody is going to be paying attention to your core values after that. And this is happening in many organizations. If you go to any company today and you ask them, what is your core value? Even they have to refer to some documents before they could tell what the core values are. In fact, sometimes I joke about it. The only people who actually benefited from company core value and vision statements are the consultants who came up with it, and the interior designers who designed those beautiful wall fixture of core values with the lights and all at the corporate lobby. Other than that, no one else benefits from it. So what we said was, let's take that as a challenge. What we want is, we want people to internalize the core value into behavior. So what we did was, for every descriptor that they had over there, we converted that into a question that will get them to think and answer those questions. And each question became a card by itself. So total descriptors there for individual core values, we had like about 15 or 18 different descriptors, because there were multiple levels of employees over there. For each one of it, we converted it into a question, and the question became the cards over here. So the purpose of it is that if this is taken to any level of people in the organization, they must be able to play it, and they must be able to appreciate it. It should not be a highly intellectual game that only some level of people could understand it. And we made the question simple enough that the question is general enough that the answer will depend on their level. So it's not the question, it's the answer that is going to be at different levels. So somebody who is not at a management level will give the answer at their level of understanding. Somebody at the senior management level will provide an answer at their level of understanding. So the game can be played by all levels in the organization. And then what we did was, there are a few other spots there. Let me just take that out. So these are some of the values that they actually had. And we wanted to change the rules of the game a little bit. So you talked about, one of the things is the rules of the game. The third part is the rule of the game. Now, where do you change the rule of the game? You change the rule of the game to highlight a particular lesson that you want to embed in the audience. So here it is: frame, mechanics, and the rules. And when you put in new rules, rules are the boundaries as well as the limitation and allowance in the game. When you put those rules over there, the rules must directly link to the lesson that we want to deliver in our classroom. So if you look at it here, there are some situation cards, not situation cards, situation locations there. Ask for help. Ask and negotiate with any players. So in that thing, when they land over there, they are supposed to be negotiating with other players for cards. Or by the way, the goal of the game is to collect a deck or a set of 5 colors. The 5 colors are their values, so you have to collect 5 colors over there. And it's not easy. We played the game for 45 minutes, and still there were people not having all the colors. So ask for help is that they can negotiate with another player. Hey, you know what? I have this card on partnership. You have a card on integrity. Can we exchange on that grounds? And some exchange worked, some exchange did not work. So when it comes to the debrief, we actually ask them, why did the exchange not work? Now, here is where the lesson part comes in. Why did the exchange not work? And then you can go deeper in the debrief of that. The other thing is wrong decision. You lose one competency card, and when it comes to the lesson, we relate that wrong decision to a real work scenario. What does a wrong decision mean in our work situation? But at the same time, we do not want players to feel that making a mistake is the end of the day. Now, here's one challenge we have, especially in the Asian region, is where employees are afraid to make mistakes. The younger generation today is not having that much of a problem. For them, if they make a mistake and you're unhappy with me, so what? I'll just tender in a resignation and I'll go elsewhere. It's such a different world. But here we are talking about people who are in the organization have been serving the company for like 15, 17 years now. They're not going to be moving anywhere else. All right. And at the same time, due to past culture, past belief system and all, sometimes people tend to be afraid of making mistakes. So what we tell them is that, you know what, when you make a mistake, there are consequences. But remember, the game is still going on. You can still make up for it. So don't be afraid that if you did not hit a certain target or something, we want people to feel safe in the organization. And then we went into coaching and learning, because that's another area that we needed to touch in the game, is that we wanted people to understand that coaching and learning is actually a vital part of their well-being in the organization. So we wanted people to be able to take their personal effort. So over here, they will gain two jewels as they go past Go. We didn't use Go, we call it pass over here because Go is a term used in Monopoly. They'll earn one jewel, and they use two jewels to actually buy a situation card. Sorry, not a situation, a competency card, and the rule still applies. You got to read it. And then we created other scenarios and all that, but every scenario that you see over here is related to a work situation. And here are some of the photos that I would like to share with you on what we did. Just give me a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Had to just jump up. Sorry. Okay. So this is what we did several weeks back, and we actually play tested the game, and everything worked well, and we actually rolled out for the audience in the classroom, and it worked pretty well. It went very, very well with them. The reception was good. And the most important thing is that to see people having conversation around a very, very presumably boring topic, or a topic where we want to get people, it's a difficult thing to get people's buy-in. And what happened was people were having conversation, they were giving examples, and they were sharing with one another. And we thought that it was really good. It was really, I mean, it was heartwarming to see people having conversation on a topic like the corporate values, and without being guided by the facilitator. And our role as facilitator over there is just to correct certain misconception, but not necessarily having to tell them what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so in conclusion, I like to just go back to that frame that we talked about here, the design, the rapid design concept here is that, number one, choose a frame of a game. Pick a frame that is rather simple, easy for you to start with. Okay, this thing goes to those who are out there who are teachers or NGOs, or you're running your own small training company and all. You want to have a game around your topic of interest. Find a frame that can be used. And you know what, frames you can actually use. There's no copyright to frame. Now, if you were to take a Monopoly board and then you change the thing to play like a Monopoly, or use the Monopoly symbol and all that, then maybe there might be copyright laws. But a game frame cannot be copyrighted and cannot be patented. And plus, if you're changing the mechanics, that's totally different. So you will not be subjected to any of those copyright laws, because you are just taking a basic idea, but the rest of the idea work is actually yours. And the next thing is, look at the mechanics over there and get yourself familiar with different mechanics. See if you can bring in other mechanics over here. Like, for example, the game that we did just now, in a Monopoly, there is no trading game over there. There's only you pay them or you don't pay them. No. But we don't do an exchange unless we do it the other way around. You know, most of us who played Monopoly, we created our own rules after that. That's why the game never ends. And when it comes to this, see if you can bring other elements to the game, and you can actually change the rules over there. What are the rules that you want to modify in the particular game? And make sure the rules that we modify must relate to the lesson that we want to give them. I'll give you an example how sometimes rules can actually sabotage a game. We were doing a simulation, and what we did was we made it in such a way that there was a period of time for people, they were trading with one another. It is like a business game, and they were trading with one another. And we took a break, and during the break, every round there's a short break of about 2 minutes for them to come and deal with the bank. And one of the chap that we were with, and who was actually a client, and he said that, hey, you know what? When they're dealing with the bank, since they are there for about 2-3 minutes there, can we get them to attack another team? You know, because this is a trading game. You know, the story is back to like like ancient, about 400 years ago, the setting was about 400 years earlier. Can we get them to attack and loot the property of another team? Well, great idea, nice, but that rule that you put over there will sabotage the lesson that we want to deliver. Because the lesson that we want to deliver is about team collaboration, but the fact that you put in that mechanics over there is going to make us we'll get the players to focus so much on that they will lose focus on what is the main gist of the game and on what we wanted to achieve in the game. So we said that no, you got to be careful about what rules you change in the game. So very simple thing, every game you change rules that you put, ask yourself, how is this rule going to help in the final outcome? Is this rule going to sabotage the lesson, or is this rule going to help in the lesson? And that's the most important thing. Rules must help the outcome of a game. So if you're once familiar with that, then you can actually start modifying other games as well. And this is another one that I wanted to show you. This is actually a game called Grab and Grow that we designed. This was for a client who wanted to work around key accounts management. Okay, key accounts, they had key accounts in it. How do you balance between taking care of existing customer versus going after new customer? So one of the things, the fact is that you are limited with time. You've got 168 hours a week, out of which most of the time is going to go for family, sleep, commuting, and also you only have very little time. Time is actually finite in a week. How do you balance that time between getting new customers or managing old customers? And there are also mechanics in the game that we built whereby you can actually steal customers from another player and all. So you see here, once you understand frame, mechanics and rules, then you can start experimenting with different things. You can come up with more complex game from that. Okay? So I started this thing by telling you about ChatGPT. All right, and this thing is really going to be revolutionizing. I think tomorrow's classroom, especially in corporate classrooms is going to be not a place for people to download information. In fact, you know what we should be doing in classrooms? Can everybody turn on your laptop? I want you to log on to ChatGPT. That is if you can get in, because it's a bit crowded right now. Okay, type out your question and take all the question, write it on a piece of card, and let's play a game around the information that you have in the card. That probably is the future of how we are going to be learning. Because I'll let you know a small secret here. Even for this particular talk, this was the abstract that I sent to Dr. Jigyasu Dube, that I said that he asked me for the information. I said, okay, fine. This is the abstract, doctor. I sent it to him. I'm going to reveal something that is going to be new to him as well. This was how the abstract was generated. All I did was I changed some of the words that was generated by the AI to make sure that it went in line, in context with it. So the future of learning is not so much of thinking and crafting points. The future of learning is going to be about how do we take points and how do we turn them and assimilate into useful knowledge. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jega, for very informative webinar, very interesting. Aditi, are you there?
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes. So now I would like to request. Thank you so much, sir. Sorry, I was occupied on a call. So now I would like to request our participants, if they have any question for the speaker, you can post your questions in the chat box also. I would like to inform that I'll read it out for you. Are there any questions?
Dr. Kanige? Yes, Elena, please.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see you. It was long ago that I met you. I have one question for you, Jega. Do you have a kind of a catalog of mechanics that you used for your clients?
Sorry, Alina, Dr. Alina, can you repeat that? Do I have what?
A kind of a catalog of the mechanics that you've used for designing.
Oh, okay. A catalog means a list of mechanics or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
okay.
like.
Well, I don't have it. Well, actually, I do. Which actually, I have a table that I've created last time because I was running a class and I wanted to share that with them. Yes, I do have it, but it's very a simple one because the number of mechanics that you really see in terms of things are quite simple. It's either a trading mechanic or is it an exchange, a takeover or buy, sell, moving up, penalty, and all that. So yes, I have a table that I've created on mechanics or various mechanics that actually can be used. So I'll be happy to maybe include that, and I'll send it along with the slides to Dr. Jigasu.
Yeah, this question arose because for us it is quite not easy to do a kind of list that we of mechanics that we use in our classes. I work with students, not with clients, but we also try to create new games with the help of students. They have an assignment to design their own games, and we mentioned that it's not easy to make a kind of a list of those mechanics. So that
yeah, but you know what? It is also a good thing to get people to because the list of mechanics is actually quite a finite list. It's not to say like you have a list of 35 different mechanics or what. If you ever find anything 35 different mechanics, sometimes it's just amalgamation of a few stuff. You know how sometimes experts would like to appear like experts by overemphasizing some things and putting them into 11 different points, you know. So I find that sometimes mechanics, the best way is actually our own exposure. And another thing is what makes sense. Sometimes kids they will come up with mechanics. They have no idea what the term mechanics are all about, but they will just come up with an idea. Okay, maybe the three of us can put different colors together, and therefore we will create a gold dragon. Okay, fine. They figured out something, and let's just figure out what a gold dragon would be and what will the three colors would be. You know, something like that. You know, so let the class be loose, and at times I think the kids will come up with mechanics that is not even on the list.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a question for Jagateshwaran. It was very interesting the way you used your GMAT chat for creating an abstract. What you showed. This is possible only with because you gave the topic of artificial intelligence for that, right?
Right.
Is it possible to do this with any subject?
Any subject? Okay. If the subject is highly technical, I have this question from sometimes from engineering background, then you may not want to use this kind of mechanics. But you could do something similar whereby for them to actually maybe build a particular design, they need to use certain trusses and all that. So that's going to be a bit of a physical game. It's no longer going to be a board game. It's going to be something which is physical in that sense. So different trusses could be represented by ice cream popsicle sticks. and each popsicle stick has a code or number to see how much of weight it can take. And later we could actually go around and validating the design that they have done, whether have they did the right calculation or something like that. So that is one idea. But I think this kind of mechanics which I just showed are good for subjective types of thing, not something that is involving calculation. So something relation to legal or marketing or stuff like that. I think
Yeah, for general subjects.
That's right.
And not the technical one.
Technical one will require a little bit of thinking only, a little bit of extra work, because that's one thing I like about the technical world is that it's either 1 or 0, current on, current off. There's nothing in between. But the world of management, we have 1.1, 0.05. There's a myriad of things in that world.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Any other question?
Vinod sir,
two observations. One is that it would be very convenient to design a game if the game designer has actually played number of games, because that would give him an appreciation and a deep understanding of what Jaga spoke about, that is the frame, because the frame includes the beginning of something and end of something. So you know when football starts and when football ends. You know when a cricket match begins and when it ends. You know when Ludo starts and Ludo ends. Now, if you don't get exposure to actually playing the game, I don't mean watching, but you can't actually play every game. In those cases, I suspect you could probably watch it. But playing games, playing a wide variety of games, I think give you a very good sound understanding to design a game. The second part is that I think if you were to design a game with respect to, we talked about core competencies and cultural issues and all that. I think the game designer has to get into, the organization has to learn what exactly are those core issues and vision issues and mission issues and all that. He can't read it from a textbook. He can't simply listen to somebody to speak and listen and then say, all right, I'll make the game. He has got to go and feel it. I think that would be good. The second observation was that today I was supposed to play Catan, but I sacrificed it. I thought I should listen to Jaga. I would have played probably the 11th and the 12th session of Catan, which reminded me about what Jaga said. There are two aspects about learning a game, about learning in a game. One is learning the game, that is learning the game rules. And second is the learning from the game. And when you are playing a game for the first time, I think learning the game is a very big challenge, bigger than the second aspect, that is learning from the game. It didn't take me 45 minutes to learn Catan. It took me about, I think, 3 to 4 hours or so. I have played almost 10 hours of Catan so far. Today I would have played another 2 more, but I thought I should listen to Jaga. That would be much more valuable. And I think I did a good decision yesterday evening. Thank you, Jaga.
All right, thank you, Dr. Vinod. Okay. There is a question in the chat box there from Anurag.
I just wanted to show you this quickly.
Oh, okay. I think the back is not okay. Is that a Settlers of Catan?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, there's a question there. Yeah, I'm not a game player, and then how can I hunt for these developing these technologies? Okay, now you don't have to be an expert in playing all kinds of complex games. There is a game called Terraforming Mars, and I hate that game because 3 hours after the gameplay, sitting down with that person, these guys were competitive and they never bothered the fact that I don't even understand what are you guys talking about. 3 hours later, they said, oh yeah, I won. Oh, you lost. First of all, I don't even know what happened over here. So it's a very complex game with multiple stuff over there, and it's also an expensive game, okay, cost-wise. I think, what would be important is for you to have some level of exposure. You must have interest. In order to design something, you must have interest. You see, like there are hobbyists who modify cars, who will take off some part from the car and put in high-powered equipment and turbocharge their cars and all. But for that to happen, the person must be interested in cars to do that. A person who wants to bake a cake must first at least have interest in baking. Otherwise, you will just follow the ingredient and you'll only be able to create one cake from there. But you will not be able to change something and do things differently. Likewise, any design or any field, there must be some level of exposure. At the same time, you don't have to be a very, an expert player. Just having enough exposure to simple games, Connect 4, Jenga, traditional games that is played, pick up sticks, and all. So what's happening is that we are actually exercising our mind. You're looking at pick up sticks. You take a game like pick up sticks. Oh yeah, just now, Dr. Guru Prasad actually asked about for technical. Now suddenly, as I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about pick up sticks here. About how could we use pickup sticks as a beginning to an opening for people to learn about beams and structures, or get them to experience how one is connected to another. I'm just thinking out loud over here. So every single game out there has something for us to learn, and I think just expose yourself.
Are there any more questions? So I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so as we come to the end of the webinar, I now request Dr. Jigyasu Dubey, Coordinator, Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming, SVV, to propose word of thanks.
Thank you, Aditi. I, on behalf of the Center of Excellence in Simulation and Gaming, COESG, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India, would like to give our most sincere thanks to Mr. Jagdishwaran Manoharan for accepting our invitation and giving his precious time out of his busy schedule. It is very interesting and informative seminar for all of us. Thank you, Jega.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our thanks to International Simulation and Gaming Association, ISAGA, for the collaboration and support in the organization of Pratiti 2023 Becoming Aware webinar series. Our special thanks to Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, for the guidance and motivation to continue this series. We are also thankful to the Dr. Santosh Dhar, Director and Dean, Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research, for the mentoring. Our sincere thanks to the panelists, Dr. Hadi Iko, Dr. Elena, Shri Vishwas Parchureji, Dr. Vinod Damlekarji, and all other panelists present, all the participants who make this webinar successful. I am also thankful to Dr. Aditi Veda and all the members of COESG and IT team of the university for their kind support. We have second webinar of the series on 27 February 2023. Same time by Dr. Yusuke Toyoda from Japan. So thank you to all of you and hope to see you all on 27th February. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I request all the participants to please fill the feedback form and mentioned in the chat box to get the e-certificates. We'll meet soon with the next webinar. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jega. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod sir. Thank you, Elena.
Bye.